It's not even in the movie.
Julien, I want you to do the intro.
God damn it. What's up, guys? Welcome to the fucking Hungover Podcast. This podcast, we're going to be talking about Star Wars, The Last Jedi. We've given you all enough time to see the movie.
Well beyond enough time.
In fact, so much time that I actually saw the movie in theaters. And you should be goddamn proud that I saw it, because I trudged through a goddamn blizzard to see this movie. In fact, I'm more dedicated to the Star Wars franchise than anyone else who ever saw the movie, based on how much work I had to do to freezing cold weather. 1 degree out there. It was crazy. Anyways, I'm one of your hosts, Julien.
And I'm over here. My name is Yvonne. And we are Hungover Gaming, and we are bringing you the Hungover Podcast, and you can watch us on YouTube, listen to us on SoundCloud or iTunes, and in any one of those forms, you can like, subscribe, comment, but we appreciate it when you do it onto the iTunes the most.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as YouTube. I actually prefer YouTube more, but
I
on
would prefer
iTunes
YouTube.
we get a lot of visibility that way if you help spread us around by giving us those comments. It helps, increase the visibility.
Yeah.
But why would you do that before listening to this podcast? I don't know. We ask at the beginning, just as a reminder, if you didn't do it from the previous one. But if you're tuning in for the first time, take a listen before you do any of that kind of stuff, because we didn't deserve it yet, right?
Yeah,
okay,
well,
cool.
we always deserve it. What are you talking about? Anyways, look, we start this podcast out every single week by asking each other, what media have you been consuming besides Star Wars? And what did you drink last night? Yvonne?
Excellent. So we're recording this on the day the Bills lost.
No, it is the 7th of January.
Yeah, so
Sad
the Bills
day.
made it to the playoffs. Big win. And then lost in a kind of a disappointing fashion, 10-3.
Oh, that sucks, man.
Yeah, it's real disappointing. But consumed that, and while I was consuming that, some Labatt's.
Labatt Blue. So good.
Getting some Labatt.
Shotgun one? You shotgun one? You shotgun one?
No, it wasn't that kind of place.
Where you just said, it doesn't matter.
At
Doesn't matter.
a friend's place, yeah.
Awesome. Labatt.
It was a nice atmosphere to watch it in, lots of Buffalo fans, but disappointing at the end. So holding my streak that every game I watched this season, they lost.
Well, I think we know now that you should never watch another Buffalo Bills game if you want them to win.
Yeah, I
confirmed.
know, right? Anyway, so other things that I consumed a lot this week. So I've been getting into PC gaming.
Of
Finally
course.
reached that level 25 in Overwatch.
Holy crap, that took so long, man.
It took
God.
so long. I don't know what happened. They really kicked my butt there.
Man.
I've also been able to play some of the older games that I wasn't able to play.
Nice.
Like, I've started a Civ 6 campaign.
Whoa. Big moves. Big moves.
Yeah. I was able to play it, but it wasn't that great. But now I can actually run it at a decent clip.
That's awesome.
I'm discovering that there's a big difference between Civ 6 and Civ 4.
Civ 4 was the last one you played?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think I know for a fact Sid Meier's himself has not made a Civ game since the first one. And they always try to just, change. Why would you want? It's not like Madden, It's not going to be pretty much the same game every time. They have to change it somehow.
Yeah,
right?
It's a lot more complex.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
So I'm trying to learn the basics of just like how the technology progresses in my first playthrough. I chose the play now button, so I'm Theodore Roosevelt.
Nice. He's cool.
And Teddy.
Good old Teddy.
I'm really falling behind in the game, though. Despite having captured...
Are you on just normal difficulty? Whatever it is?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
With heavy tips and tutorials.
Well, yeah, you need to have those on even if you're a veteran, because, dude, there's just there's gonna be something you don't know. That game is so crazy.
It's so dense.
Yeah,
it's kind of off-putting how dense it is. Yeah, and then I played an old game because I've been reading and listening to some books about it's a historical fiction about kind of tracking Arthur Wellesley's career from India and then the Peninsular War against Napoleon's army. So it kind of follows a fictional private, then he becomes a sergeant, then he gets bumped up. Anyway. And then, so that sparked my need to play in that kind of time period. So there's this old strategy game, which was a clone of medieval Total War.
Yeah.
But set in the, like, late 1700s, early 1800s.
Okay.
So around the time of, like, the Napoleonic Wars. And it's called Imperial Glory. And it's got that, like, wristboard map, but then if you fight battles, it's the RTS control.
Is this, oh, really? Is this on Steam?
I think you can get it on Steam, most likely. I got it through Amazon way, way long ago.
Oh,
Not just downloaded it through different computers.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the major advantage that I can see that PC, I mean, other than having, great graphics if you have the money to spend on a graphics card, but that PC gaming has over console gaming is that you bought a game like 20 years ago, you can still play it on your PC most likely, so long as you can still download it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It does crash every once in a while, but
well,
it works
that's
out.
just how all PC games run.
And I won as Russia already.
Oh man, big moves.
Yeah, I kicked everybody's butt. In terms of media consumption, there's been something I've been watching recently, but I've been forgetting. I did catch up a lot on Rick and Morty this week.
All right, I guess
season 3 episodes.
I'm
It's
Pickle
still
Rick.
really funny.
Yeah.
I'm Pickle Rick. It's really funny. It's got a lot of deep and some surface level jokes. I like the interspersing of the two. But I mean, people have covered the community of Rick and Morty a lot with this stupid Szechuan show.
Yeah. Well, you must be a very intelligent person to comprehend the show completely. So, it's how it is.
No, you just have to get references.
Yeah, I know.
That has nothing to do with intelligence. That just means that you've seen or read or know a bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with intelligence.
I know. It was a goddamn.
I know.
Okay.
I'm annoyed at the position which you were jokingly taking. Anyway, that was me. Yeah.
Cool.
That was pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, well, aside from Star Wars, I saw a movie called The Hateful Eight, directed by Quentin Tarantino.
I can't believe this is a banner week for Julien.
Yeah,
He's seeing so many movies.
Two whole movies that were almost 3 hours long each. Quentin Tarantino's 8th film was, oh my god, that is a long movie.
Yeah.
But I liked it. I liked it, I think. I might have to see it again. But it was very gory, very heavy on the N-word usage, which, I mean, I feel like he's the only director that just really wants to shove that word up people's asses. Because holy shit. And I can't believe how many times he said it.
Yeah.
It's I mean, unfortunately comical at that point. But yeah, so the very gory, which obviously is a commentary on gore in movies in general. But I thought it sort of played out like a stage play once they got to the what's it called?
The inn.
The inn that they stayed in.
What's it called? The haberdashery.
Haberdashery is the exact word, right? Yeah, so once they got there, it sort of seems like it was almost written and all the lines I felt were like delivered as you would see in a stage play. They seemed that way, and I thought that was pretty cool. But maybe I'm wrong or something. But and also it was also really cool that it pretty much just took part in that they'd spent like 2.5 hours in that haberdashery. It was pretty cool, and I liked Tim Roth. I thought he hilarious in that movie. It sort of seemed like he was trying to play what's his name's character, Leonardo DiCaprio's character from Django Unchained,
Oh,
almost.
that's who you got. Okay.
That's who I got from him a little bit.
Because I got Christoph Waltz.
Sorry, yeah, it was a mixture between those two. Maybe just physically, he looked like, just aesthetically, how he was dressed. He looked like Leonardo DiCaprio in Django Unchained, but the way he was delivering his lines was like Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Bastards, for sure. You're right.
Yeah, it did feel like that part was written for Christoph Waltz, and he didn't have the time to do the movie.
Yeah.
So they used Tim Roth.
Right.
I love Tim Roth.
I think he's very underrated.
I think his best role is Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs. I like him in Pulp Fiction as well. But yeah, I think his best role is definitely Reservoir Dogs. A very long time ago. Unfortunately, he hasn't gotten any better roles. But it's tough to top that role. He did a great job.
I just think that was a really, really, really good role. I think he's had other good roles. Even his TV show Lie to Me was really superb. But yeah.
Yeah, no, and Samuel Jackson was amazing in Hateful Eight. I thought he was really great. Yes, and I won't spoil who the last character is in the movie and who plays him. But I mean, it came out a long time ago. But you guys
Pretty
go
sure you
see
can
that.
Spoil it.
Yeah, well, we'll spoil Star Wars instead. How about that?
Okay.
We'll spoil a more recent movie. So I saw that, and then I played a lot of Super Mario Sunshine on Friday. I think I played it for like 4 hours straight. I had a pretty awesome stream. I beat the game. Actually, I've never beaten that game before, despite how much I like it. And I got a couple of viewers. The reason why I started playing was because one of my viewers wanted me to play it for some reason, and he sent me the emulator link. I swear to God, I'm not stealing this game, but Nintendo's, I swear to God, you just need to re-release it and I will pay for it again. But yeah, he sent me the link to it because I was having trouble finding it, and I started playing through it. I got a couple of followers because I was playing it, and apparently there's a small but very well-knit community of speedrunners for this game, and they were all just making fun of me pretty much the whole time, well, because I sucked at the game. But it was all in good.
Small but mighty.
Small but mighty. They were having a good time. I was having a good time. Finally beat it. It was a touching moment, and actually the last boss fight's pretty cool. And then I watched a speed run immediately after because apparently you can beat that. The world record is an hour and 14 minutes to beat that game. It was pretty crazy. The cool stuff that they were doing. And then after that, I downloaded StarCraft 2. Aside from all the Overwatch that we played, I started playing StarCraft 2. It's a pretty fun game. I really actually I've always wanted to get into real-time strategy games. They always seemed like the coolest things to me. But I downloaded one a long time ago called Ashes of the Singularity. Not that long ago. It was like 2 years ago. Called Ashes of the Singularity. But there's just no way I could get back into it because there's so many things. You have to go through the tutorial again because you have to learn how to build everything up to the point and when to build it and how to build it. It's out of control. But StarCraft 2 seems manageable for now, so we'll see if I ever get into a match online and how quickly I'll get wrecked. That's a very competitive game, allegedly.
What are your clicks per minute, bruh?
Bro, I don't even know what that means. So,
your actions per minute.
Actions per minute, probably like 5. I can probably figure out how to make something. But yeah, so that's that. And then I went out. It was my friend's birthday last night, so we went out to this really hip sort of food court / bar in Brooklyn that has a bunch of, it's just literally a bunch of hip old white, not old, but hip old. Well, they're like 30, 35 young entrepreneurs that have kids literally with them at this bar. You know, they're all cool. They're trying to basically, all their friends have had kids, so they're all just trying to maintain their social life while also taking care of their kid. So they take them to the bar. Real cool. Awesome place for your kid to grow up, in a bar. I think that's probably not the best thing for them. But yeah, I'm not going to lie. A lot of those kids were crying, and it's not my fault. I'll tell you that much. But there was a really good, the food places, they had 3 or 4 of them. And one of them was a Filipino place, and they did Filipino poutine, which has, what does it have? It has pork belly in there, a bunch of French fries, and a bunch of different hot sauces that you can put on top, and cheese. It had mozzarella cheese, nice. I think. It was pretty good. It was pretty good poutine, and I had a red ale. What was it? A pale ale, and I also had one more beer, a lager, which was, I guess, pretty good. The lager wasn't that good. The red ale was good. The red ale I did like. What's your opinion on red ales? I haven't had that many.
Very small opinion on red ales. I've had one that I can recall, which was
Killian's Red.
Maybe 2 then. Maybe I've had a Killian's Red too.
You probably had
I have had a red ale from this pub in Niagara on the Lake.
Nice.
It was a house pub.
Whoa, that's cool.
Or a house beer. So it was pretty good, actually, there.
Well, anyways, that's about it for me. I had a good time. Oh, and then I guess also for dessert, this girl that we were with invited us all back to her place, and she wanted to bake for us, I guess. Well, for my friend, in reality, because it was her birthday. But she baked us this, basically, it was s'mores. It was a s'more brownie. But she did graham cracker crust on the bottom, the ground up graham cracker, brown sugar, butter combo. Then she made brownies in the middle, and then once the brownies were done, she put a bunch of marshmallows on top and then threw it back in the oven until they browned. It was a pretty good idea, but...
Did she broil it or bake it?
Yeah, I think she broiled it. Well, I mean, she baked it until the brownies were done, and then she broiled
for the marshmallows.
Yeah, I think she broiled the marshmallows. I wasn't exactly paying attention, but because I hate baking. But that it was pretty good. I think with a better brownie mix would be good. It was a pretty cool idea. Anyways.
That was actually something I got into recently.
Baking?
My sister and I started watching the Great British Bake Off.
Nice.
Or the Great British Baking Show, just because we couldn't leave the house. It was so much snow.
Snow, right? That's hilarious.
It was like 55 hours of snow.
Whoa, 55?
Yeah. It was worse when we were in college, dude. We got 90 once.
I know. That was the day we had a snow day. The one day we had a snow day. That was awesome. That was on my birthday. That was pretty crazy.
But
I've never seen so much snow. It's crazy out there.
This much snow or something. It's like...
For audio listeners, that's about 2 or 3 feet, you said?
Yeah.
Damn. In 2 days. That's crazy.
It was pretty... From Friday to this morning. And then we're supposed to get hit again tonight.
Jesus.
I think it should be already snowing right now, and so they preemptively close schools for tomorrow.
Nice. That's a good deal. That's a good deal for you, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, you know what hasn't closed?
At the box office?
Boom!
Boom! Star Wars The Last Jedi. Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. We both saw it. First impressions, Amon, go. We're going to spoil it. Just FYI, everyone who's watching or listening right now, if you do not...
Full spoilers now.
100% full spoilers starting now. I have a timestamp, but I definitely won't write it down. It's going to happen. We're spoiling this movie now. You have been warned. Amon, it sucked.
Liked it, but I was disappointed by it for several reasons.
All right. Let's get it. Let's do it.
How did you... What was... So...
I'm in the same exact boat, man.
In like a paragraph, could you or like a sentence, could you sum up how you felt?
I felt... Let's see. I liked... No, I can't. A paragraph. I definitely like the No, I can't do this.
I think it was visually really aesthetically beautiful.
Yeah, I was
in
let
certain
down by all the
points.
comedy, personally.
I thought it was a little childish too,
Yeah.
for the most part. I didn't really think that it was worth the. I like. I mean, here's what it made me do. It made me think. Did I laugh at previous Star Wars movies just because I was young when I watched them, or are they actually funny?
Well, I mean, you have to think about George Lucas's writing. So it's like I don't know. In
But
reality,
some of them were good, some of
I
them
think
weren't. Like
I think episodes 4, 5, and 6 had a different type of humor. I think it was much more dry, the humor. In this, it was really just trying to capitalize on, in my opinion, on the audience being a younger audience. I think they were more like slapstick gags, I guess. What's knee slapping? I don't know the exact terminology, but I think but
knee slapper or something like
yeah,
that.
I think so personally.
Slapstick is more like a physical comedy thing, I think.
Yeah, well, I think there was a lot of physical gags that they threw around. Like, didn't a bunch of. Well, I mean, literally, the movie set its tone in the first scene.
Yeah.
And I did not like that because they and also not to mention they switched directors. There's no, J.J. Abrams did not direct this. He's executive producer on this one. I don't know who directed this one. Ryan Johnson. There's a Ryan in there. Ryan Johnson. Do you know what else he's directed?
Ryan Johnson directed Ozymandias from Breaking Bad.
Oh, an actual episode. Okay.
Yeah, it's the episode where.
No.
Spoiler: it's in the last season. Hank dies.
Oh, okay, that episode. Okay.
And Hank dies in the first 3 minutes of the episode, and the rest of the episode is exploring the dearth of things in Walter's existence.
Okay.
Anyway, it's a really well done episode
right.
in general, and he's done some more TV work. He's not really done film work. This was his first massive film. But he did so well with this movie that Disney's rewarding him with his own trilogy, which will follow this one.
Well, here's how I feel about the movie overall. I'm very conflicted in the overarching storyline that went on during the movie. I don't think it was not.
Which one?
Exactly, right. There were so many. I did not like. I liked some of the characters I liked a lot of the characters they introduced. I did like Mark Hamill's performance. I think he did an amazing job. I think he was perfectly fine, and I think Carrie Fisher did a great job as well, honestly.
I actually felt Carrie Fisher was less stiff in this movie than she was in The Force Awakens.
Oh, yeah, exactly, right. Well, I mean, the pressure's on in The Force Awakens, right? This is the first time in 40 years she's been on screen, pretty much. But
there was just in Russian it's like a plasticity, a flexibility in the acting that you could experience in this one. It felt a little bit more not affectionate, because I'm not trying to put the frame of mind of the viewer onto Carrie Fisher, because of course we love her and miss her, etc. But I think that there was just more. She felt more comfortable getting back into the role in this one than in the other one, and I don't know whether that was because it was the first time coming back, or she just hadn't done a lot of acting in that way in a long time.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But she was much better, and I enjoyed her performance in this.
Right. So we had to move this story forward somehow, and I don't necessarily think I really didn't like the whole just what the rebels were doing, the conflict they were in. They were literally just moving slightly faster than the bad guys, and that doesn't make sense at all. One, two.
What do you mean it doesn't make sense?
It's not what is even going on in this movie, right? So this is why I'm conflicted. I like the performances. I like Rey. I like John Boyega, Finn. I loved Mark Hamill, and I even liked what was her, Rose. Actually really, this was a very diverse cast, and I really applaud them for doing that. And even more so, this is a Star Wars movie, so this is the kind of movie you put on a pedestal. Like, it has to be good. At this point, it has to be held up as a very high profile movie. So I'm really, really amazed that they gave an Asian woman so much screen time, and I'm really happy that they did. I was really great, but what were they even doing? Why did that casino place even exist? It seemed like it was just a commentary on capitalism for no reason.
But a bad one.
And it was a bad one at that, right? So that, I guess we can get into it. Let's stick
why with the character work for a little bit, right?
Right. So
let's stick with the characters. So in this, we had a lot of the old characters from the original series. We had Admiral Akbar.
Don't get me started on Admiral Akbar. I can't believe they did that to him. That's something.
Mon Mothma.
Yeah, right.
They had Leia. They had Luke. Those are like some of the characters, and so a lot of the performances stick through. Like Luke's performance, they did something with Luke that made us happy, right? And Mark Hamill's performance was
large
really
role.
Good.
They gave him a large role in this movie.
But how are you gonna do my man Admiral Akbar so dirty,
dude? Oh my god, I can't believe I didn't even know he was there. Like, I don't even remember seeing him in the film. Maybe I know he probably was in the background or something, or maybe he had a line. I literally didn't even see it.
He had one line basically, and then they blew up.
Crazy.
But you know what my big problem was with that? In general, was that we went from The Force Awakens, where we had Admiral Akbar.
Yeah.
Then we went to Rogue One, which had Admiral Akbar, but Admiral something, which is from the species, which is Admiral Akbar's species, but isn't Admiral Akbar.
Yeah.
So then I was like, wait, is that Admiral Akbar or is that guy? Wait, that guy died. Wait, did he die? I couldn't remember. So I was so confused, and then the way they did him dirty like that, I was like, that couldn't have been Admiral Akbar. But at the end, it was Akbar. Akbar is dead, and he got blown up without any fanfare, which is kind of like one of the messages, I think, is that it's just, you can kill off people with little regard to what the history of it is, right?
Right.
But a lot of the characters... even the characters introduced in this new arc, right? Mm-hmm. So we have Phasma, for instance.
Well, she was in the new arc of new trilogy, yeah.
Yeah. So we have Phasma, who's a throwaway character. We have Finn.
Can we talk about her for a second? She's supposed to, I think, leading up to episode 7, she was being touted as to have a much larger role in the story, if I'm not mistaken, right?
She
was going to be a crazy cool character.
Yeah.
Like, they actually
gave female
a unique stormtrooper. They actually had a unique stormtrooper that actually had a story arc, but she doesn't. I know nothing about her.
No.
Right? She was in the episode 7 for 5 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, 5 minutes, in maybe. That, she's like, I'm Captain Phasma. I'm the most badass person ever. Then they're like, here's a gun on you. You have no choice. And she's like, I'll do whatever you tell me to. And in this one, she gets her shit kicked.
Yeah, at least it's by Finn. But
that's the whole thing. It's like, why was she created in the first place? It was like just to create a unique stormtrooper, but then they were like, we don't know what to do with her. Well, so they were like, we'll kill her.
They needed to give Finn an enemy to fight. pretty much. That they wanted him to fight something that was, because he's supposed to be a key character, but I honestly I don't think he had much of a role in this movie at all. It was almost useless.
He's one of the characters that I don't think that they've figured out. So I think the thing is that, like, when J.J. Abrams created some of these characters, right, like Phasma and Finn, they didn't really have places to go. I think there were a lot of, like, what if this happened, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what if a stormtrooper defected from the Empire? What would that look like?
That's such a cool premise, right?
Right?
And that's why Finn's a cool character.
Right. And so a lot of what J.J. Abrams' movie was like, this fantastical kid approach to Star Wars. Like, everybody's so focused now, I think, on how the plot was so closely resembled to A New Hope, right? Just scaled up. But people are really forgetting how it felt to be reintroduced into the world and how kiddish and, like, exciting a lot of The Force Awakens was.
Yeah.
Like, being able to sit in the cockpit, right? You sat in the cockpit of the TIE Fighter and got to fly around with the TIE Fighter pilot. You got to explore these kinds of ideas that you had when you were a kid. Like, what does a stormtrooper think? Why wouldn't he just leave the Empire? Of course they're evil. So it was a little bit of exploring that. And then, as Star Wars in general, the story is kind of heroes versus villains. And there are some people that can be redeemed, some people that can't. But it's always a conflict of good, like, positive ion, negative ion. And they're always in battle against each other. They're attracted, but they fight, right?
Yeah.
So Finn, defecting stormtrooper, has to have his analog in the other side. So a stormtrooper who's, like, super badass. But nobody except for JJ had an idea of how to handle them. And even JJ, I think, was just like, it's a cool premise, but I don't know how to solve it.
Did he write the movie? He didn't write
This one is no. Ryan Johnson wrote this movie.
Did JJ write The Force Awakens?
JJ and I think a couple other people wrote The Force Awakens.
Okay, I didn't know he
definitely created Phasma.
Oh, that's cool.
For instance.
Which is cool. I think these characters all have something to them. They're not just, or at least in my mind, they're not just hollow characters like anyone in the first trilogy. Not 4, 5, and 6, but 1, 2, and 3. Like, what's the general with that steals the lightsabers from all the Jedis he's killed?
General Grievous.
Yeah, like he has got that cough. Like, he's even actually, of all the characters, he's one of the cooler ones. But like Count Dooku, I don't care about that guy. Count
Dooku is actually quite interesting, and Count Dooku, I think, is a misunderstood character because of his connection to whiny, bitchy Anakin.
Yeah, right. And he did
Count
have
Dooku's
the lightsaber.
Count Dooku is questioning the position and the role of the Jedi, much in the same way that Luke ends up questioning the role of the Jedi.
Yeah, I guess we can get into that. I think,
but before we get into that, real quick, just to go over.
There's so many things. So many.
Yeah, I know. In terms of the new character arcs, right?
Yeah.
So we have Finn and Poe and Rose. So Finn and Rose get paired together to go on to their adventure into the bad casino world, whatever. We'll leave that for a second.
Sure.
And then Poe is with the ship, and he's learning how to not just rush head first into something, right? So we're trying to learn these moral stories, right, and understand things in a greater scape, but they all get negated.
Yep, they're literally.
It's like,
why are we? They're just playing with our emotions with this movie too much.
We have this criticism of capital being used to fund evil weapons, but then they're like, they also sell you the X-wing. Dun dun dun.
Oh my God! It's like they're playing both sides.
So who's the evil one? Is it you? I don't think so. And some of it is like, I don't know whether it's... So I have some advanced training in, like, political economy and understanding that capitalism is an amoral system. So it doesn't care what it produces. Capitalism about buy for $1, sell for $2, right?
Yeah.
It's just obtaining more and more capital. So I don't know that necessarily kind of trying to understand the amoral capital system fits within this dynamic of heroes and villains. And especially when you make it with cute little gnomes that are trying to just steal pocket change and stuff like that.
Right.
I don't know that the message came across or that it was at all important. I think that a lot of it was just like, we're going to present you with an idea, and then you're going to fully think about this idea and be into it completely, and then we're going to turn the light back on you and show you that not all things are only evil. Some things are evil and good. But really what you're talking to is just like, hey, people who make a lot of money selling weapons are all bad. Because they're still selling weapons to kill other people. But it lacks that next step. And then when we talk about Poe, and he's like, you shouldn't run headlong into things. And then the person who teaches him that, or one of the two, the Laura Linney's character, was it Laura Linney?
The purple...
Laura Dern.
Yeah, the
Laura Dern's character
woman.
Runs headlong into the enemy.
Literally.
With a brash thinking.
Also, literally, she flies the ship.
I want to get to that whole point later, so we'll keep that in the back of our heads. This is a long movie with a lot of intricate parts, and it's really passionate, so it's Star Wars, so we're going to bounce around in some kind of coherent method.
Trying to, yeah.
But we'll get back to a little bit in a little. So, starting off to where we were talking about a lot of different points I brought up, a lot of different points you brought up. So what's one point that you wanted to get a little bit into now?
I wanted to talk about... Actually, you know, I did really like the opening. Let's talk about just visually this movie and some of the shots that they had. I thought it was a little... I mean, you need to have the CG for for all the space fights. That's great, and it's really amazing what they can do nowadays. And I think it was a pretty good opening sequence where they were taking down the dreadnought.
Minus the joke.
Yeah, minus the actual. Oh, right. So they had this character, the red-headed guy, right? He was in the first movie, if I'm not mistaken.
His name...
I forget. But he
like
was a pretty...
Admiral Spanks or something like that.
He was a pretty... if I remember correctly, in the first movie, he was very stern.
Donald
and
Gleason.
He was like a hard ass, and he was a very menacing character in the first movie. And they immediately, literally the first scene, he's getting prank called by Poe. And he's just being made fun of, and he becomes a lighthearted character that is the comic relief on the
General Hux.
General Hux, right? And he becomes the comic relief of the Emperor's side, the what is it called, the Republic side. First Order, right? So, and he's just the guy that they throw all the jokes on now. So that was a little strange that they just completely changed his way. I don't think that... I mean, we know that episodes 4, 5, and 6, George Lucas directed the first one, and then someone else directed 5, and I think the same person directed 5 and 6, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure, but it's so strange to think... I mean, episode 5, sure, it did seem... It was a much more higher production and directed by someone else, but it didn't seem that the disconnect in tone between those two movies is not nearly as pronounced as it is in episodes 7 and 8, which
they were all directed by different people.
Okay, fine.
And the screenplays were written by different people.
Okay, even better. I thought George Lucas wrote whatever.
He wrote the story, but not the screenplay.
Right, so that's fine. But yeah, you understand what I'm saying, right? So
yeah. There's a big tone shift.
Right, and I don't like the tone shift at all personally, but what I'm trying to say is I did like a lot of the shots they were getting of Poe in the X-wing. I thought that was really cool because he did a lot of shifting of his momentum and which way he was going very quickly. And I thought it was pretty cool that they get quick shots of him in the cockpit, and he's like slamming against the wall of the cockpit. And I thought that was really cool, and that's something that that sort of embellishes his skill as a pilot and how skilled you have to be to pilot these things. So I thought that was pretty cool to add to, just how elaborate it is to fly a spaceship or something. I don't know. That's something I wanted to say.
Those were cool shots. I really like the cockpit scenes in most of these films.
Right, they seemed way more unique in this film than
the movement felt
ones.
different. Yeah. So they were trying to make the movement. So if you look at like the original films, it doesn't feel so physical, I think.
Right. Not at all. You're right.
There isn't the physicality. I think there's some of the turret stuff on the Millennium Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
You feel a little bit of that turret stuff because you get to move around in that swivel turret. But I think you're right in that you could feel that physicality of movement, and it felt a little bit more tangible. Like you could taste how it would feel to be in the cockpit.
Right, and I thought that was a really good direction to go in terms of those shots. So it made me enjoy the space fights a lot more. But I guess going on to that, they're sort of immediately thrown into this loop where after they jump to light speed to get away from the First Order, they're caught back because they're getting tracked through light speed. Sure, mm-hmm. I guess they sort of explained that. Man. Yeah, they explained it. Whatever. I mean, it's suspension of disbelief, right? So. Not that light speed jumps makes any sense at all.
In this universe where you can make a light speed jump, it's weird that they can track you. Oh no.
Well, anyways, they're sort of just immediately thrown into the conflict that doesn't seem as it didn't seem as like in the past literal 7 movies, when the First Order, the Republic, has caught up to you, they're going to take you prisoner, right? They're not there to destroy you. It's just how these movies end up working out, right? They're gonna interrogate you or whatever they're trying to do and just make you seem like they're really bad people. But that's not what's going on in this movie. They're literally on their last legs. So I guess I understand the sense of urgency in that situation. They're sort of trying to paint the picture that
it seems like there are 35 people left in the Resistance.
Right. It seemed, well, now there definitely is at the end of I thought I really, really liked the last framed shot of the movie, but because it had and the last line is, I think we had Leia says we have everything we need, and it has it's sort of like the ragtag team. It had C-3PO in there, R2, and just it was Rey sitting there with a broken lightsaber, and it had Leia, and I thought that was I thought like that almost it's like, oh my god, it's so cool. I love it.
Got really dusty in here really quick.
Yeah, no, but I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a good way to end the movie. But it again, this conflict, okay. Like they're running away.
Let's talk about this then.
Let's talk about this whole conflict, which is the whole point of the movie. Like
they've got these big cruisers,
yeah,
that are chasing out after this small Republic fleet, or the Resistance,
yeah,
whatever they call themselves. The Resistance can't light speed jump away because they'll just be tracked and whatever, they'll get destroyed.
They're going to waste their fuel. Yeah.
Yeah. So now they have to travel at whatever speed. Why in the world doesn't the First Order just send ships ahead?
Right. No, exactly.
It's light speed. We're not stuck on the oceans. I would get if it was in the ocean and you have to go forward, right? We can't speed away faster than them.
Exactly.
Etc. But we're not. We're in a 3D space. You can send people from below, from above. You can send people in and around and light speed into them. We have the coordinates. It's not like the First Order doesn't have spaceships just on ready And you don't even have to send anything as large as a dreadnought. You could send the destroyer.
Oh yeah, the destroyer.
Scramble the TIE fighters and make them slow down so that you can hit them with the dreadnought.
Right, exactly. It's
oh my god.
It's a interesting. Like, why is this the conflict of the movie? This is the literal whole story of the movie. Is they're outpacing them slightly until their gas runs out.
It's kind of, it was reminiscent of the Family Guy joke where he's like, we can't hit them, they're listing
lazily to the left. And that's oddly enough a Star Wars reference. Of course.
I know.
Yeah, okay.
It was an unbelievable amount of, this is what we're doing? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think once it got to an hour in of this conflict, I couldn't believe it. I thought, okay, this is it. They're setting up for something else that's going to happen in this story, and then that's it. And then that'll be the cool thing that happens. But it just kept happening, and it dragged on until they literally had to write in Finn and Rose leaving the ship to go to another useless place. So that's like such a strange concept to me. I don't know why they let this happen. No one thought that this was a bad idea. They have so many people vetting this script, the movie, all the people in it. This is not a small production. Obviously, it costs millions of dollars. So why is this
$1.2
billion dollars?
It was. It had to be
like 500.
So they say the budget is $200 million. There's no way this is a $200 million movie.
Oh my god.
This movie is like $1 billion.
Yeah, easily. And that's without advertisement.
No, I meant with advertisement.
I'm kidding.
It's closer to $1 billion than to $200 million.
Yeah. Which is crazy, but yeah, so I don't know. That's the conflict there. And then I didn't particularly like the woman with the purple hair, personally.
Laura Dern.
Yeah, I just didn't like her
Admiral
performance.
Smolo.
I didn't like her performance at all. Personally, I thought she's just like,
hold up.
I'm not gonna tell us. I have a plan, but I'm not gonna tell anyone about it. And I'm the head of the goddamn ship. I don't understand.
You just gotta trust in the Force.
You just have to trust the Force. I mean, whatever.
I thought her performance was fine. Honestly, I thought her performance was fine. I just don't think that there was anything for her to do.
Right.
Other than when she took the ship, turned it around, and sent it through light speed through other things.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about this. If you can send a ship at light speed, and it will cut through whatever it goes through.
Okay.
A, asteroids. B, like any other physical object.
Yeah.
Does it cut through and destroy that, and then destroy the ship as well? Like, space is filled with shit.
Yeah, of course.
Like,
That's why they always have to calculate the coordinates, man.
I know, but it's filled with so much stuff. Okay, let's say that rocks and things are so small that there's like a deflector shield that can block them, right? Let's say that that's the technology, since we're saying we can go light speed. Why didn't they just send a cruiser through the Death Star?
I don't know, man.
Let alone, why didn't they send a cruiser, or like 3... through the thing that was going to the Star Destroyer base, and it would go through that core reactor and explode it the same way that it could cut through everything else. You're totally negating the whole premise of all other Star Wars movies just to have this one cool thing happen.
It was a cool shot.
It was awesome
aesthetically, I thought, but
But
you're right. Yeah.
It totally destroys any need for anyone to do any of the other things. Unless it's like a thing that nobody in the history of ever would have ever done. Except for she did it. She obviously knew that it would happen, so it's obviously been done before. So why didn't they destroy the Death Star in the same way?
I don't know, man. That's a good question. Because they didn't want a kamikaze. The whole point is she's being pushed. She's a cornered beast. She's being pushed to the limits, man. I think they could have, if they shouldn't have even had her as a character and just replace her with Admiral Akbar if they're going to kill him off. Like,
that's actually a pretty good point.
I think don't have her character. I hate to take women out of movies, but we're replacing her with a weird, quirky alien, all right? So they don't get any representation anyways. And I think Admiral Akbar is such a beloved character, even though his only line is just, it's a trap. And that's all he's loved for. But he's a beloved character in this series, and we fucking sent him out like a little bitch, and no one, and I think, I don't know. It's crazy that's how they killed him off. But I think they could have just had him do
I
that.
respected Admiral Akbar's military prowess for his assaults on the Death Star. I don't know what Holdo has done. Apparently Holdo did some battle that we don't see because it's off screen, because it's written in for this character to do. Guess what? We know Admiral Akbar is a military hero. Instead of killing him, kill off Laura Dern's character, who literally nobody cares about.
Yeah.
And give Admiral Akbar, who has some stakes. We didn't just meet him in this movie.
Exactly.
Like, give him a way to die.
40
You're
years
totally
ago.
right. This is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
That's a huge fuck up.
They fucked up there, and but I think the whole meat of the movie doesn't make sense. So that's a bad place to start, right? Yeah.
The other places, right? So then we get the Poe, Finn, and Rose storyline, right? They discovered through Rose's superior engineering thing, even though she just works on pipes.
I thought she was I didn't no idea. She was a confusing character. I didn't think she was particularly acted that badly. I think she was a cool character, but
I just don't understand who she is.
Yeah, right. And
she's like an engineer, but not. She's like a technician on the ship.
Never
Okay,
explained that
let's
well.
say that in the Resistance, even if you have an engineering PhD, you're forced to do some technician shit.
Yeah.
Let's just say that much, right? Okay, we'll grant that. But then by the end of the movie, she's like a trusted advisor of like everybody. Everybody's just like, yes, Rose. She's like one of the main heroes. Rose. Clearly, it's Rose.
I don't know.
Okay, she's the person who works on the pipes, but she gets to this huge, huge position. Okay, let's leave that out of the whole thing. Her entire plot line with Finn is ridiculous, pointless, and brings in one of my favorite actors of all time, Benicio del Toro, into the Star Wars saga, but
he wasn't killed off.
But it does it in a way that it's just like Benicio's just like, I'm getting paid how much money?
Yeah. Literally the same character as
how much
the
money?
Usual Suspects.
It's like, and here's what he said about the Usual Suspects. He said, I read the script and I understood that the point of my character was to die and scare the other people, so it didn't matter what he said.
Literally.
And I'm sure that he read his script and said,
give me the key.
I have to say, what? This character is a clown. And then he gave him the stutter to make him an interesting clown. And then he was like, I'm not doing this. Then they were like, I'm getting paid how much money? I have to be on set for how many days?
His character, oh man. Oh boy. Yeah. He
I love Benicio del Toro. I think he made an interesting acting choice. I don't think it was great, but I think his text was childish and terrible, and all of his jokes were bad. And I
that's
think
not
he
his
was
fault.
No, it's the writing, but I think he made an acting choice that was trying to make it more interesting and ended up making it more clownish. And
right.
Maybe that's what he was going for, maybe not, but it didn't work for me. Maybe it works for kids. I don't know. And that actually, Benicio del Toro's character is the one that made me think like, maybe these movies are passing my generation. Maybe these movies are not being made for me anymore.
I don't think they are. Well, let's get to that at the end. I feel like we can talk about who is this movie for at the end, and what was Disney doing at the end. We still haven't talked about the third storyline, which is Rey going to see Luke Skywalker at this weird... What is this planet that he's on? I don't even know.
It's a weird Jedi temple planet with nuns that are fish
has
reptile
always existed.
Things. And porgs, which are the new cute things, which somebody saw a Furby and then saw Yu Yu Hakusho and saw Pooh and was like,
we need to do this.
I've got a great idea.
Well, well, everyone likes them, and they're fine.
I hate the porgs. I don't like them at all.
All right, I think they're fine. Whatever.
You know why I don't like them? And I'll tell you why.
Why?
Chewbacca is going to starve on this island because apparently Luke doesn't give a fuck about Chewbacca
anymore for some reason.
Old friends, for some reason, he doesn't give a shit.
Well, Luke's an asshole, right?
So he's not going to feed him with this huge fish that he's fishing, right?
Right, yeah, because
Chewbacca's just sitting by the Millennium Falcon, forgotten by everyone. So he's got to feed himself.
Right.
Also, the nuns won't feed him either, right? They're just taking care of the island. They say, you're a foreigner. We'll tolerate you for a minute, but whatever. So Chewie has to fend for himself. Obviously, he's a big guy. A guy that size, that constitution, a Wookiee, probably needs to eat a lot of protein.
At least.
What's around? The porgs. So he cooks one up. And then a porg comes to him being like, you're going to eat that? So here's my question, porg. This porg is already dead and fried. You would prefer it died for nothing than him sustain himself?
Fair enough. Yeah, you're right. You gotta ask these questions. It wasn't just there to be cute. God damn it.
Why didn't Luke feed Chewie?
That's a good question. That I agree with. What the fuck, Luke? Come on, man.
Luke could have saved the lives of porgs if he had just let Chewie eat.
I know. Well, what do you think of this whole Rey's whole transformation towards, which almost... I thought it was going to go the exact same route as Luke's a visit to Yoda in episode 5. As soon as she left, I was like, oh my god, they did the same exact thing. Because Luke left preemptively, did not finish his training, and returns to Yoda at the end of episode 5 to finish his training, right? Or at least that's what I remember from that movie. And it seemed to me Rey was doing the same exact thing. She had to go save her friends and didn't finish her training. And I thought Luke isn't going to die in this movie, so maybe now, and she's going to return in the 9th movie to finish her training and defeat the dark side finally, once and for all.
But I think that is what happens. I think this movie is rehashing, just the same way that The Force Awakens is A New Hope. This movie is the other two movies put together.
Yeah, in some ways.
And so you get the Hoth battle at the end,
which was
you get the great space battles with episode 1 with the space battle, but also 4 and 6,
right?
Jedi and A New Hope, because you get the space assaults on the Death Star, which is the assault on the Death Star that kills the Death Star is kind of like the assault on the Dreadnought that opens up the movie, right? So you get those analogous ones, and then you get Rey going to Luke, just like Luke went to Yoda. It's a cyclical thing, but it's also just like, how can I take the best of what has been done before and mine that for my movie? Mm-hmm. And then you also get things like things that weren't done well in terms of the translation. So you get Cloud City, which is this gambling city, and the casino city from this movie.
Yeah.
But I think that there are a lot of parallels to draw, and I think that the first funny moment that I was really into in this movie, and the one that took the burden off of Luke being Yoda was Luke goes with the lightsaber.
That was the first thing that happened. I thought that was great. That was a perfect way to set the tone that was going to happen.
That was good humor.
Well, Mark Hamill's a funny guy, all right? He's the Joker.
But I thought it was it was funny enough that kids get it, right? But also adults feel a certain level of attachment. I thought it was a good, balanced effect.
Right.
Much more so than the opening jokes.
How do you feel about Rey's sort of travel to becoming essentially a Jedi, I guess, in some way?
She's the Last Jedi.
Yes, allegedly.
There's some things that I really don't understand what this movie was trying to say.
Right.
So a lot of what this movie is trying to say are these muddled moralistic things that, Star Wars has always been trying to deal with things on a moralistic basis, but always in a muddled way.
Mm-hmm.
But this one seemed a little bit more preachy than usual, with the criticism of capitalism and things like that. So it was an interesting set piece in that. But when we get to talking about the Jedi, it's you don't need to read books. You don't need to read texts. Wisdom of the people who have come before you is worthless. What you learn is through your initiate process and the feelings and understanding by feeling and these kinds of things.
Yes.
That was the process that I understood that Yoda was she's already got everything that she needs because she felt it.
Right.
And in this day and age when, okay, I don't need the Star Wars movie to be a criticism of Trump or the New Age conservatism, but I don't need it to be accepting of that as a path to life. And being accepting of books as an evil, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a way to pay homage to the Jedi path and the things that you have to forge there through learning, even if it is with books or whatnot, without having it be stuffy, Yeah. There has to be some reverence given to knowledge and learning through reading and accessing things like books, and knowledge of and wisdom of elders, and less to just feeling it is going to make me great. Because what is the message that kids are going to take? They don't need to read the books because they can understand things on their own? That's a tough message to get for that,
Yeah.
And that struck me in a really weird way. Now, what I thought was that the books were destroyed, but apparently Rey took them in the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't know that that's super alleviating of the point, because even Yoda brings the lightning down as the books can die.
Yeah, maybe and Yoda's even in this movie, which is I thought was I when I first saw him, I'm like, oh no, why are they bringing him back? I love Yoda, of course. I just don't want them to ruin his character, but I thought his scene was fine.
I didn't like the Yoda puppet. I'm gonna be the only person. I didn't like the Yoda puppet.
It's fine.
I think I prefer a CGI Yoda, honestly.
Well, I thought he was his lines were fine, and I like to see. This is Mark Hamill's last time as Luke Skywalker, and I like that he was reunited with Yoda for one scene. Right?
So he couldn't be reunited with Chewie?
No, he can't be reunited with Chewie. He had one line with Chewie where it was almost all right. But Yoda and Luke are connected on a very deep level.
Yeah.
Of course. But I think that for some reason, I can't really explain it in words, but I sort of feel like Rey is, not, she's not, is she a Jedi? She's trying to become trained in a way, in almost the exact same way Luke was trained by Yoda. But it just seems like it's rushed. Her progress towards becoming a stronger Jedi or whatever, however you want to say that.
I think that's kind of the point, right? So, Luke was rushed as well.
Possible. Yeah.
And I think that part of that is that they're not going to be. I don't think Luke was really a Jedi Master.
Well, apparently he was in this movie, right?
Apparently he was, but like if you look at like Mace Windu and Yoda versus Luke, there's a level of training,
and even Obi-Wan.
And definitely Obi-Wan. There's a level of training and like rigidity and different things that they had from that old Jedi Order that he didn't have.
Right.
Clearly, it's
I
a different
agree.
thing.
I agree. You're right.
But and Rey's completely different, and I think the idea of Luke being the last Jedi is that there's a new path that you can be in tune with the Force and be good with good in terms of like with the light side of the Force, right? Mm-hmm. Without having to be a Jedi.
Right.
So it's kind of like New Age spirituality, right?
Right.
Or like strict things like Judaism or Islam or strict Christianity. It's like there are strict forms of Catholicism or Judaism or Islam that you have to follow all of these tenets by the book, etc. But then there are like New Age things where like, what? We don't have to follow the 5 pillars of Islam, or we can do whatever we want on the Sabbath in the Jewish faith, and you can convert in and whatever. It's a lot of like that. It's like saying that there is no need for the rigidity of the old ways, right? It's kind of a parable in that sense.
Well, one of the themes of the movie for sure is forgetting the past and moving on.
You must kill the past,
yeah,
right?
and killing the past, right? So, or eliminating the past. And I think that's a really, I mean, as corny as that is, and how real it is, it's like they're trying to usher in a new, trying to sort of release. We're sort of like shackled by the original trilogy of this series, and I think that I guess we can again talk about this when we talk about who is this movie for, but I think it needs to happen. And I think we need to just let go of, to a certain extent, of what our preconceived notions of what Star Wars can be. And this is not only for the old fans, right? So
right.
I wanted to talk about one more person before we talk about that. Is Kylo Ren. I think
Kylo and Rey, I think, had some really
Kylo
great stuff.
And Rey.
And Kylo on his own too.
I thought that was really cool that they are so deeply connected now, even if it was because of Snoke, who apparently has no role in this. I feel like he was gonna be the next emperor, but gets killed. He's just not in the movie series anymore.
His life was cut down in its prime.
I thought he was so powerful. I thought that was really great, but they literally wrote in the fact that he was going to kill Rey right then and there, and there was nothing she could do about it, and we can't kill off Rey because this is the second movie, so clearly he needs to die now.
Can't
so
kill
this
off
is just
anybody,
how it's written
apparently.
in. Yeah,
so
except
don't worry,
for
Rey or any person with more than 15 lines. You're good.
Right, exactly. And I didn't think that Snoke would have such a small role in this trilogy. I thought he would have a much larger role, and we realized that in this movie, but clearly not. He gets killed.
That's interesting. I think that's a difference between like JJ and the old guard of Star Wars and the new guard, and Rian Johnson and the new guard. Is like
it's not
the old guard was the big puppet master, right? It was always Palpatine versus everybody else for the first 6 movies. Now you have Snoke, who's kind of like the Palpatine-esque person, even has the lightning blast, the Force lightning.
That was cool. I thought that was pretty cool.
That was awesome. Yeah. But he gets killed off, and so now it is kind of like the most interesting villain in terms of I think Kylo Ren is a more interesting Anakin, right? It's kind of going back and fixing what Anakin should have been written as and acted as.
Right.
And fixing it that way. through Ben Solo, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so Kylo is kind of an interesting one. I still think Darth Vader is the best villain in all of Star Wars lore.
Oh, of course, and so does literally everyone. So it's fine.
But Kylo Ren is kind of an interesting character to deal with because he's not fully this way, he's not fully that way, and he doesn't want to believe in the Sith and the Jedi. Also, he wants to do this, but the weird thing is then he takes the turn of being like, I'm going to rule this world
Immediately.
Let's rule it together.
Yeah. It was
a weird twist.
Quick. I can't read him. I have no idea where this character's what his morals, where do they lie? I don't know. And I think that's obviously a choice that they made. I think they know what they're doing with him. But I definitely don't understand his character at all as of now. I think he'll have a much larger role. I didn't think he had a pretty big role in this movie, and I think he'll have a much larger role in the 9th movie, as I assume his storyline will end then. But or maybe not. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
Palpatine was in 6 movies. Kylo Ren could be in 6 as well.
Right, exactly. Or he could be in 3. I don't know.
The other thing being the Kylo and Rey inner space FaceTimes.
Yeah.
And the way that they developed character in that way. So it was, I thought, a pretty interesting frame of mind. It reminds me, I saw this one short film on HBO once, and it was the perspective of, like, witnesses to a crime.
Yeah.
So you get several different perspectives and how their prejudices influence how they saw it and who they thought committed the crime. And then at the end, you get to see what the crime is. So it's like 30 minutes, and it's like close to 10 minutes per story, and then like the crime itself is like 2 minutes at the very end.
Okay.
So in that way, it's kind of like the destruction of the Jedi Temple, right? So the two perspectives and how...
It's the Jedi tree, man. The tree of life. Yeah.
Yeah. But like what happened at the temple when Kylo Ren turned away from Luke for the last time, and he became not Ben but Kylo.
Right.
It was interesting to see the two perspectives, because you did believe, I think everyone really believed Kylo's story.
Yeah.
And the way that Mark Hamill played that with his eyes going crazy,
I thought
with anger, was awesome.
I thought that was probably the best part of the movie. That whole storyline, I think, one of the best parts of the movie, and I think that's what I'm talking about, man. Give us more of this shit, and get rid of the fucking casino place and flesh this story out. I think that would be really cool if they maybe had a longer flashback sequence. But I also like the idea that it was just literally we're seeing this one scene from multiple perspectives, and we see a little bit more every time, right? It was every time we saw that scene where Kylo Ren crashes down the place, right? I thought that was really, really well done, and I thought even the lighting, because it was only lit up by Luke's lightsaber, was really great. I thought that was a very good scene. I can't believe that.
I think it was one of the top 3 of the movie. I think that one.
Oh, wait, we haven't talked about the
salt. Hoth battle.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. And
visually,
then,
anyways.
Something else is probably just as cool. Oh, probably the light speed, light speed crash was pretty cool.
Right. So
but yeah, so this Adam Driver, I think, really did well. I think Daisy Ridley did really well with Rey in terms of these dialogues, and I think that they were an interesting way because we've never had the two characters talk so much in one
or
movie.
Literally touch, right?
Well, actually,
Darth
they
fought
Vader
each other,
and Luke fought each other and stuff like that, and they did interact, but it wasn't as much or as often or as emotionally deep as this movie.
Yeah.
Because I think both of them are not they're on a spectrum more so than polar opposites, right?
Right.
I think that Luke and Darth Vader for the majority of the series are polar opposites. But Rey and Kylo Ren are kind of like, they could go different ways. They could find uses even, right? So Rey could find a use for the dark side.
Right. These two characters are the most interesting characters in this trilogy. They also so happen to be the main characters in some ways. But I really wanted, I think, and their relationship is the best part of this movie. And this is what we all want. We want to see their storyline finish. We want to see what it is that's happening between them, right? Rey is the good guy, Kylo Ren is the bad guy, and I think in very reductive terms, and I think that their relationship's so important to this trilogy, and I think they're still going fine with it. And they had their huge fight at the end, sorta. Didn't really have a fight. Well, didn't really fight with lightsabers that much, which is fine.
But the lightsaber fight that they did have was really cool. Actually, that's my fourth favorite shot. Any of those interior decorating things where there's just a red,
those shots
the
were
red
pretty
guards
cool.
in Snoke's throne room, those were pretty awesome. And it was a really good lightsaber battle, I thought.
I didn't necessarily like those guys that they were fighting, the red guys. I get aesthetically why they would look that way, but they just sort of ended up seeming like generic people or enemies, right? In my opinion, in that fight. And it sort of just reminded me a little bit of the Power Rangers in terms of aesthetically. But I did like the fight itself. I thought that was really well choreographed. I just didn't necessarily like their design and why they were even there.
I like the room.
I like the room, and I like
that was
the
my
whole
main
setup.
focus.
Oh, you just wanted the room.
The room
like,
and the fight within the room. I
dope.
liked it a lot.
No, yeah. I also don't. I mean, I understand Adam Driver's trying to sort of have like a very unique fighting style, as he's not necessarily a Sith Lord. He's not a Jedi, definitely. But I feel like it doesn't fit that well. And he also has a really unique lightsaber that makes a crazy sound. I like the sound it makes, but and I like the way it looks. I just like he's just like weird physically. Obviously, we saw him with I thought that was funny. When he had his shirt off and the high-waisted pants, she's like, could you put on a shirt or something? And he just said no. I thought that was funny. But I didn't necessarily like, I just don't know where they're trying to get him to go with his fighting style. Maybe they just like, pick whatever you want. It's fine. But
it also seems like he's leaning forward a lot.
Right. It doesn't fit with how anyone else that uses a lightsaber in any Star Wars movie, I think. But that's not necessarily fun.
Well, there's a point I want to make about all of that at the who is this movie for section.
Right.
But the final battle is pretty stunning in terms of its
beautiful
visuals. And
so
talking
beautiful.
about the end of some storylines, this is a good one. Mm-hmm. There is one really good storyline end that happens at this battle, and one story that should have ended, which didn't. Did you think that Finn should have died?
I really like his character. I like Finn. But he literally had no important role in this movie at all. And I was kind of sad about that. Because I like him as a character. And the fact that he's even part of the Resistance right now is crazy. And I think that he's really only interested in Rey. And that's literally his only goal. It's just to make sure Rey is happy and alive, and he'll do anything to see that happen.
Yes.
And Rey is not necessarily on the same wavelength as him, and I think that's a cool love triangle that they could end up having going on there, as Rose is obviously into Finn, and I think that could be played out. Maybe, who knows? But I don't see, he didn't have any role in this movie. I didn't like that. But I don't necessarily think he should be killed off. I have no reason to think that.
I wasn't saying that to be killed off. I just thought it completed his story arc. Right? To go from a coward who was running away from the First Order.
Oh, I see, yeah.
To a guy who's willing to sacrifice everything in the fight, right?
Right.
So it's like this. Force Awakens was this mini story arc where he built confidence and was willing to fight for Rey, and then he figured out that he's willing to fight for something greater than himself outside of a personal relationship, right? And he was willing to sacrifice himself for the
greater good or something.
Yeah, for the greater good, for the Resistance.
Way. Yeah.
And then Rose goes and stops it, and it just feels. I felt like his story arc was good, and there would have been stakes.
Right.
Had he died. As it was, we had Admiral Akbar unceremoniously killed, which we weren't even sure it was Admiral Akbar.
I know. I didn't even know he was on the goddamn fucking god.
And then we had Laura Dern's character who died. And then we had a lot of faceless, nameless people who die. And Phasma died.
And Phasma
although we don't know for sure she's dead.
And Snoke died.
And Snoke.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly. No one ever died.
So it just feels like there weren't any stakes.
Luke died.
And I mean, Luke
Allegedly.
dies, but Luke dies in a way that doesn't like. It doesn't feel like there was danger. It feels like he finally made a decision to be at peace. That's
fine with me.
It's a different thing than like Leia dying in that space battle or Finn dying at that thing. It was like, if you're going to die and you don't really have a choice to die, it's just you're put in a situation of danger, and the decision that you're making is one that you're forced to make, but it could end up going badly. This is like the reason that I didn't like Stranger Things Season 2, right? It's like every decision that they made worked out. And there were some casualties, but none of the main characters died. It was only people introduced in Season 2 that died.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
It's in the same way, like, new people who are main characters won't die in this movie. Only old characters can die, or people that are newly introduced specifically for that role. Like Poe, Finn, Rose, Rey, Kylo, they're not going to die.
No.
The people who will die, Han, Luke.
Leia and Luke.
Leia will probably have to die just due to the fact that Carrie Fisher is no longer with us.
Interesting that they would have... who knows if that's what they planned, but it's interesting that they planned that it could have been planned that they would just kill off one of our favorite people, whatever, one per movie. I don't know. Just interesting. Just something to think about. But...
Well, they might just kill C-3PO, R2-D2, Chewbacca,
they can't
all of
kill
them.
R2. Yeah.
Anyway, so it seems like the new characters aren't dying, and in this way, for this reason, there's a big problem with how they're being written.
Right.
You have to create these fanciful storylines in which they're going through these weird things that they have an adventure, that everyone has something, that they're getting the participation trophy award for the movie, right? Mm-hmm. You have to have Finn do something. To introduce Rose as a character that you give a shit about, you have to have her do something. And that something is ultimately worthless and pointless and does nothing and is nothing, but you have to make them do something so that you can remember who they were.
Yeah. I agree.
And so you have this panoply of characters that is ever-growing stable, and you're slowly killing others off just so that you can create more.
Yes.
But it's still like all the old characters, they didn't have to have their own storylines. They were just people that we took from the background and made them larger than life because we didn't have good Star Wars movies for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Admiral Akbar, although I liked him personally for his military prowess in commanding the Rebel fleet, or like Boba Fett, who's literally ignominious, right?
Yeah.
He's in the movie for like 10 seconds, and then he dies ignominiously in Jedi by getting swallowed by the Sarlacc. Which is why I never understood why people really liked Boba Fett.
He's just cool, man.
That's just a personal
He's just
thing.
cool.
I don't believe he's that cool. You know who is cool? Luke.
Luke is cool, and I think they gave him a great role in this movie.
I
to
think
be
so
cool
too.
And
I
utter
think
badass.
that end when he's like, that was pretty cool.
That was the fucking coolest, most badass thing he's ever done. Just completely mess with this guy's mind. Not most. Okay, fine. One of the coolest things.
Most dope thing Luke has ever done is always going to be the somersault onto the barge with the lightsaber.
Didn't he catch the lightsaber?
Yes, R2 shoots it out because he put it in R2 so that R2 could shoot it out so that when he was going to be marched out, he could do the thing and do the thing.
And break the... Oh, it breaks the... Yeah, you're right. Yes. Very cool. No, of course... Okay, fuck you. The point was, what I'm trying to say is he's projecting through space and time a fucking fake Luke to just mess with this guy and make sure that the rebels get out. And so that is so cool. That is amazing that he has that much power. And I'm glad he has that much power.
It seems weird that the Force can do all these new things.
Right, exactly. Let's not talk about that, but but I guess we can. I think what I wanted to say is I think they could have pretty much just gotten rid of the entire 30 minutes that they spent in the casino world and spent 30 more minutes on this salt planet, and I think that would have been great.
I think if they had just cut that 30 minutes, it would have been good.
Just cut it. But I think they could have done more with this salt planet that they clearly spent so much money on.
Did they, or did they just go to the Hoth planet and reskin it?
Yeah, right. Yeah, they just
went to the Hoth set and reskinned it.
Just make sure
it's the exact same fight.
I know it is, because it even has the fucking the same AT-ATs.
It's the AT-ATs coming against the speeders, and then you've got the hangar, and then you have to make sure that people have enough time to get out of there or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And the Millennium Falcon's there. Yeah. Well, that wasn't. Was that there in Hoth? I don't remember. But
Han Solo's there, so presumably.
I know. Yeah, one would assume. Just no Darth Vader, but there's Luke. Yeah. So let's. I think we've sort of chat on this movie a little bit. I did really like, and I don't want people to think that we didn't like this movie. I did like this movie. It's just we have to hold Star Wars. You and I hold Star Wars to a very nostalgic place, and we really want something more from this series, right? Or at least I do. I hope I don't want to speak for you, sorry. And so that's why we want to critique this movie, because it needs to be critiqued. This is such an important part of of my childhood. I think it was a very important part of your childhood as well.
I used to play Luke Skywalker all the time.
Exactly, yeah. I had the toy lightsabers. My parents were so nice to me to buy me toys and things like that, and it really it's part
sticks.
of who I am. I had sticks too, don't get me wrong. I used sticks. Literally, my mom bought me bamboo sticks, or got me bamboo sticks somehow, and I broke so much shit in our house. But yeah, so
no, I just had the handles of the sticks. They were just a foot long, and I was like, "This is my lightsaber."
Well, yeah, exactly, and it's such an important part of who we are, and or at least who I am. Star Wars. So I think this is why we spent fucking an hour and a half talking about this movie. So it's a really big event in our lives. So I just wanted to say that, and I did like this movie, just not as much as I wanted to. I think that's
if you had to give it a grade, what would you give it?
I give it a 7. No, I give it like a 7. I the way I felt at the end of it was not how I felt in the middle. I'm resolved on it now. I just don't like the story, the middle part of the second act of the movie, I guess. I liked the beginning. I thought it was fine, and I think I liked the end of the movie as well. I thought it was fine as well.
I'm somewhere between a C plus and a B minus.
Right. So you're around like 6.56.
Yeah.
Right. So
6.57 ish.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
So we're almost in the same boat.
And I think, actually, that's a really tough grading scale, or a really easy one. Whereas C plus it'd be more like a 79.
Oh, so for
like
C
a B
plus?
minus
Oh,
is an 80,
you're
right?
You're right. Yeah. Okay, so you're at like around a 7.58.
Yeah, I'm closer to
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Definitely not going to hit an 8, actually. So we'll count it as a C plus.
So we're in the same boat.
I think that this movie was. I think this is what we're going to get from Star Wars.
Yes,
from now
this is I wanted to say those exact words. Maybe this series is not
I don't think
not
it's an
all
A
we
anymore.
wanted it to be. It's not.
I don't think it's an A. I don't think it's a B plus. I think Disney is a big company that wants big
Right.
cash cow things,
And
and
that's
we'll
why
get
they bought
B
Star
minus,
Wars.
B minus, C plus movies that appeal to everyone, rather than movies that are questioning a little bit more things, or pushing in other directions, or exploring things in ways that aren't like a panoply of characters that everyone has to invest into. People can die, things like that. So,
Right. I mean, what did the original Star Wars do for you, right? It was the original trilogy. It had this great cast of characters, not that this trilogy doesn't, although it has some of the same characters. And they're all unique characters, right? They all have a very defined role in in the trilogy. I'm talking about the original trilogy. And it was all it made maybe I think maybe we have to think about the mind state that we were in when we watched it, because we were kids, and maybe it but I know plenty of adults who were, the parents of my friends that love this series in the same way. And they were adults when they saw the movie. So it couldn't have been that. I have to rule that out, right? It couldn't have been that we're so deeply connected to this series because we were kids, right? That we grew up with it. There's just something more that this series has allowed, the Star Wars franchise as a total, has allowed us to just become who we are, really. I think in some way or another, it's sort of just like you want to be part of an adventure. You want to be. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Actually, I'm gonna stop talking.
I think that part of it, right, is that you have the shape of this universe that you can fit into.
Right.
So there are so many different things in this universe that you can grab onto, and I think part of what makes the old movies so exciting to see is that not everything is defined.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of atmosphere building, the blue milk, different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a whole bunch of these atmosphere building things, and I think that's kind of why people fell in love with it. I mean, it was good story, but it was good story set in a great setting.
Right.
I think that the setting outweighed the story in a lot of ways.
It seemed they definitely nailed how it should have looked, right? Or right, it looks very lived in,
how it
right?
sounds. Yeah,
right.
And then the creativity of it.
It's
You
all
found
believable.
characters that you could identify with. A lot of
Like
Americans
Luke
I know
Skywalker,
are really into like Han Solo.
Oh no, I always like Luke, man.
I was a Luke fan too,
I like
but
Luke.
for some reason I know that most people in this are like, Han Solo is the best character in Star Wars.
I like Han. I love Han.
Not going. I always thought he was a rogue and a scoundrel, and I didn't like him. I was on Princess Leia's side. Anyway, I think that there's a lot of things in the universe that you had to grab onto, and then I think as the movies got made, people, like, the manufacturing of movies changed, and the manufacturing of movies as cash cows changed, and the manufacturing of movies as an industry changed, and at the same time, people forgot why they enjoyed Star Wars, because George Lucas took these 3 films that were about this story and this universe, and expanded it into everything to make it a chess video game, to make it lunchboxes, to make it action figures, to make it toys, right? And so the economy of Star Wars outgrew what it was in and of itself. And people wanted to live and inhabit that universe. How do we know that? Because there are books people will read, cartoons people will watch, games people will play that are set in this universe because it's such an interesting, cool, and well-defined universe.
Yeah.
And
You're
then,
right.
And then there's the cash cow, and there's the, like, if we can get people hooked on the you know, the fish teat, the walrus teat.
It's got green milk now.
Of Star Wars, we can get their money and get their endeavors. And then the idea of why you make a Star Wars film, I think, changed. And it changed from being a more adult film, I think, that explored kind of humanity, explored universes, explored creation of worlds, to a movie that was generated for kids to buy toys.
Yeah, I think
And
as
whereas
yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and I think that whereas characters like C-3PO and R2 and Chewie had levels of kind of childish humor, I don't think that they were designed to be childish humor. I think that it's a style of humor that kids can appreciate. Whereas then you get Jar Jar.
Oh, don't.
And Jar Jar leads into a history of characters or a history of comedy built into this series that is about kids laughing at fart jokes and things like that, right? And part of that is like Anakin Skywalker is a kid in the first movie, and it is a kid's movie because it's about a kid, it's for kids, it's made to be kids' movies. And then I think I also think it was built to be just this. I don't know what Star Wars is anymore. I don't think it is this interesting interrogation of universe and world building. I think it's kind of like it's eaten itself in that regard. And now you have to have these kind of different elements that you have to tick. Like, we have to see different worlds. Why? Well, because it's Star Wars, so you have to see different parts of this universe. Yeah. And they're not super creative, they're not super whatever, they're repeating everything. And it just doesn't feel interesting in that creative dimension anymore to me.
Well, yeah, I that's a very articulate way of saying that. That's true. But I don't want to sympathize with Disney because and their position that they're in. They have probably one of the most popular franchises under their control, right? I would say probably one of the most popular franchises of the past 40 years. So you have a lot of people that you and I included that literally grew up with this. This is a huge part of our lives, as I've said before. And so what do you do with this franchise if you're going to bring it back, right? Which they have. They've made 3 movies so far. What do you do, right? What I don't want to
3?
sympathize.
4?
They made 3, right? They
3.
made
Rogue
7,
One.
Rogue One, and 8, right?
Okay.
Or those are the movies I think they made, right?
Yeah. Han Solo is yet to come.
Han Solo will be 4, and then 9 will be 5. And then there's going to be another trilogy, right? So I don't want to sympathize with Disney as much as, they were also part of my childhood, Lion King, etc. Because they're definitely showing more and more that they're just a large company that is trying to consume everything under the sun so they can make more money. It seems that way. So I don't want to sympathize with them, but I also can't see another outcome in 2018 when Star Wars is made, right? Or this time period when Star Wars is made. I maybe it's just me growing up and things like that, and just I know this is so dumb. It's like the fucking theme of the actual movie that we're talking about. But I think that's sort of what they're trying to say by boldly making that the theme of the movie. Is that this has beats for the people that are 40 years old but we really want to make money off of your children, to say that brashly, but we really want to inspire. Maybe it's that they really want to inspire a younger generation of Star Wars fans to be Star Wars fans, and not have to care about what this series meant to their parents, but it should mean something completely different to them. So I want to think of it in that way, and I think if you think about it that way, it's not so bad, right? It's like, it's a kids movie, so kids should enjoy it. That's what I think. In some ways, I want to enjoy this movie more. I hear if you see it a second time, it's better, but I don't know if that's true. I'm not going to spend $16 more. Yeah, I'm not going to see it in theaters again. But yeah, I think the sentiment is maybe Star Wars just isn't the series that we once thought it was anymore. And
that ran out quick, man.
What?
That Star Wars just kind of exhausted that
itself. Yeah.
Yeah. But even looking at it, like, think about all of the interesting and new things that they
introduced to the
series. 1, 2, and 3 did.
Episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of world creation, we went underwater.
Jakku.
We learned different
Jakku.
things.
Yeah, Jakku, right? And no.
Naboo.
Jakku
is in 7, isn't it?
Sorry,
Naboo is episode 1. So we had this underworld adventure. Then we went to Coruscant, and actually people kind of liked Coruscant.
I like Coruscant. It's fine.
I think the main thing that people didn't like was how artificial everything was.
Right.
And how involved in CG it was. But in terms of the creation of different environments for people to be in, I don't think that was the big... No, like that was the big problem.
I even like the pod racing, how all of those ships had, or whatever, the pod racing vessels had a unique spin to them. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought they were well designed.
Yeah. Whereas in this movie, the only ships that are really new and interesting are like the big dreadnoughts.
And even
the
then,
emperors.
They're pretty much the same thing.
Big flat triangles.
Yeah, they're the same thing. I agree, but at least they had those raggedy speeders on the land speeders, right? That's what they were pretty much just the pod racers, though. Or Anakin's
They're a
pod
mix
racer.
of the pod racers and the snow speeders.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. But
it just felt like there isn't anything new. Everything is cyclical, and nothing is new.
Because it's safe to do it that way. And Disney plays the safe game because they're Disney. They have to. If they don't put up at least a bare minimum quality that they're trying to hit, then they failed, and Disney will never fail. You have to understand that, right? They can't fail because they're Disney. They have so much money that they can literally just make it not fail. So, or at least in my vision of Disney, right? They put up they have to bring in video games, like Nintendo has the Nintendo seal of quality, Disney has the Disney seal of quality. It's going to be this way, and they have to please a wide swath of people, right?
And I think that the other thing is, in terms of that, is that there's a new a new kind of interaction with the new generations, right? So
Right.
in a generation in which an iPhone can do things that weren't even dreamt of in the original series, in the original trilogy, how do you have to kind of amp things up, right? Everything is on steroids in this movie.
Yes.
So
I
the
agree.
Force used to be a thing that you could gently manipulate, right?
It was an elegant time. What did elegant say? It was a more elegant weapon for an elegant time. Something like that. He was talking about lightsabers, not the Force. But yeah, keep going.
But these weapons are used with such brute strength in this movie.
The lightsabers? Or?
Yeah, and
yeah.
it seems really strange to have like Rey, who's a new Force user, never been trained before, to be able to just immediately have such access to such strong Force power.
That's what I was talking about when I said it sort of felt rushed. Her abilities. That's what I meant. Like, why is she so powerful now? I don't know. She had 3 lessons. Why is she so powerful? I don't know.
That's an excellent point, and I think that's kind of. I think that's a generational thing.
Right. It just has to be assumed that she's powerful. It doesn't matter how she got there.
I just think that people don't have the patience for A New Hope, to go through that. I don't think that people have the patience for somebody to slow roll a development, or for the Force to even be something that isn't as powerful as Palpatine, right? With the Force lightning, you have to see how different aspects of how the Force is so much more powerful now.
Yeah.
Like freezing a bolt.
Right, exactly. Why is Kylo Ren so powerful? Right?
Yeah.
Or
freezing a bolt. Being able to project yourself.
He didn't seem that powerful in this movie.
Space FaceTime.
Oh wait, never mind. He killed his own guy with Force.
Yeah, he killed Snoke, but he didn't. That didn't seem that powerful. That was actually one of the original manipulations of the Force, right?
Yeah.
It was just. I mean, I think Star Wars is.
It's not over. It's definitely not over.
It's not done, but I don't know that it's got great places to go.
Yeah. I will admit, I think coming back and thinking about it and talking to you about this is true. I agree. But this movie still made me feel a little bit like a kid again to go see a Star Wars movie. And I was genuinely happy when I walked out of the movie theater with that, specifically that last scene. It was very, I don't know, I just have this shot of it's just like the cast scene, but it's everyone's in their cloak and shit, and it's the Star Wars cast scene, but I'm thinking of it from like 40 years ago. But I think that last scene really sort of I think it sort of means that they still want to hold on to past traditions and things like that, and they still want to make it like Star Wars, or what we think Star Wars to be, but it's just for a new generation now. So I wanted to say that what really makes me feel like a kid with these movies is the music and the transitions between scenes, that sort of, the wipe that George Lucas sort of, and that sort of, just that, and the music really makes, and like coming in with the title rolling and shit, that gives me goosebumps. That gives me goosebumps every time, and so does the end of every movie. I get goosebumps when it that song always gives me goosebumps, and hearing that and seeing it coupled with big screen makes me feel like a kid. So it's never gonna, I'm never gonna let that go. So I do love Star Wars on a really deep level. But
speaking of musical transitions,
yeah,
and the last
thing that we'll ever talk about. Do
you have anything else to add? I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, that's what I wanted to end on in my.
Good.
So, I liked it. Yeah, we end our podcast every single week in a song in a segment called Hungover Radio. This is when you, the listener or viewer, can send in your music, a song that you wrote or sang part of or played an instrument on, and want to promote to the Hungover gaming community, which is growing strong. We've got 26 subscribers. We're so sick. Yeah, so go ahead and send that music in to gaminghungover@gmail.com. We will play it at the end of the audio of the podcast, and we'll link it out so you get all the clips, the clicks, and such. And I hope you guys are having a happy and healthy New Year. But if no one sends in a song, I get to pick a song, unless Yvonne can think of a song on the spot.
Super Smash Bros. Melee theme.
No, we've already done that. I think we've done that like 3 times. The point is, I chose a song from one of Yvonne's favorite games, also related to Star Wars, KOTOR,
Yes.
Knights of the Old Republic. The Old Republic theme. This is a song that we can play, and it's related to Star Wars. So, hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Tell us in the comment section below what you thought of Star Wars. I guess maybe, yeah, well, whatever. Say whatever you want. Spoil the movie. We already spoiled it. You got anything else to say, Yvonne?
No, I think that's good. Thanks for listening.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys. See you next week.
Bye.